Speaking up, standing out, and being heard, it means that people are seeing and hearing the value that you bring to your organization. It means that because you have this ERG Globe and the other ERGs in this organization, it means that now that you have that platform, you want to make sure that people do see and hear your value, what your contribution is, so that it moves the organization forward and up. And also that it moves you forward and up. You want to make sure that when you have people's attention, that you're speaking, again, to be heard. Not just seen, but heard and remembered. And that the organization recognizes what that is. Because when you do that, you really step into your spotlight. You step into your appropriate place. And I love it. Everybody laughs, and we all laugh. Why? Because everybody in this room has been there. Exactly. Yep. You've been there. You're like, okay, I didn't like the way that felt. Exactly. So what I want to make sure is that I'm going to have you leave here with some skills, some tools, and some strategies that will ensure that you will not feel invisible again. And that if you do, you'll know exactly what to do to step out of the invisible and into the very visible. Now, I know this is an over-dramatization, but I'm curious. If you can identify what were one or two things that were different about each of those characters? And don't all speak at once, please.
Confidence.
Posture.
Posture, okay.
Confidence.
Confidence.
Convincing.
Not convincing, yes. Confidence and posture. So if I'd been introduced by this wonderful chef, if I'd been introduced and I walked up here and I said, good afternoon, I'm really happy to be here. And Clifford, it's really a pleasure. And you would think the food was good, but it wasn't that good. I can't listen to her. Because you want to make sure that you are congruent with the narrative that you articulate about yourself. The three must make points. There are three questions that every audience has, and you guys all had it, for each person that's spoken here. Your audience wanted to know what's in it for them, and why should they listen. You want to know why should you listen to any of this, and what's in it for you. And then the other thing that you want to know is like, what do you want me to do about it? And so as I met Mr. Butler in the back, who is responsible for negotiation for your organization, I asked him, I said, what are the questions that you ask yourself before you go into a room? And he says, the questions I always ask is, what is it that my audience needs to know? Why is it important to them, not me, but to them? And what do I want to have as an outcome? And how many of us have gone into a meeting, and we were even leading the meeting, and we weren't quite sure why we were there, and we weren't quite sure why the other people were there, other than the fact that we just invited them. Those are the meetings from hell, because they don't go very far. But if you answer these three questions before you begin a meeting, or before you begin to speak, if you walk into a room and you can answer those three questions, that makes all the difference in terms of how people hear you. Because one of the things that we typically do as humans is we tell people everything we know. But we forgot to ask the question, what is it that that person needs to know or wants to know? Because I could keep you here all day telling you everything that I know, even though some people might say that's in a thimble, but really understanding, like, what is it that that audience needs to have so that we can have them deliver what we want as an outcome. It's so very important. One of my clients, one of the things that she does is that when she has a meeting with her team, she actually tells them they're not allowed to come into her office with a problem unless they are prepared to discuss those three questions. She accelerates the meeting. It helps them to get to the so what. And it also allows them to be able to increase sales year over year because they are answering those questions, which are very important. Is any of this making sense to you?
Yes.
Is this important to you?
Yes.
Great. Ooh, the person
I'm on microphone, sorry. I'm really excited, yes.
Great. Because one of the things that I want is that when you leave, I want you to be able to put this into practice immediately. Not tomorrow, actually this afternoon. I'm going to tell you a quick story in terms of this three must make points. One of my clients, we were early on in our relationship, and I asked her, I said, what do you do? And she says, I'm Senior Director of Sales and Marketing. I said, that's really wonderful. I said, so what do you do? She says, I'm Senior Director of Sales and Marketing. I said, that is so fabulous. I said, now, what do you do? And she said, that is what I do. I said, no, that's your title. That's not what you do. She says, yes, it is, Charmaine. I said, no. I said, and how many more people do you think walk around the halls with a business card that have the same title? I said, you work for a multi-billion-dollar company. You are I think they were number 10 at the time of Fortune 10. I said, a lot of people have that card. So what distinguishes you? What differentiates you between anybody else? Because when do people listen? They listen when something sounds good and when it looks good. And when your register of your voice is deeper, people listen. I'm not 6'2". I think I am, but I'm not 6'2". But when my voice is lower, people listen differently. Usually on the phone they call me Mister, but people listen differently. I'm called that so frequently, it just doesn't even bother me. So my thing is about my voice. But when I want to make sure that I capture people's attention, it's really thinking about how you use your voice. It can be softer, it can be lower, but think about the timing, the inflection. When the next time you leave a voicemail message, I'm going to ask you to do one thing. I want you to be clear. What are your 3 must-make points before you leave the voicemail message? Because if you're not, what it's going to be is rambling. And who likes a rambling voicemail message? No one. Why did you call? What should the person do? Answer those questions really quickly. Have a really good friend. She calls me, I always delete her messages, always. Because she has to call twice. I say, anything that long, hell, no one even needs to know. Making sure that you're clear, because in that voicemail message, you have an opportunity to capture people's attention. How many of you are virtual? Meaning you're dealing with people in other parts of the globe. They don't know you, but your voice is what they do know.